settling rivers, tranquility, and wine planets of harmony. We're sanctuaries for one with all the bells shimmering through the halls in the forest life with gaiety, with those who worship earth and tree, and in the valley below the vine, the world's an observation and the mind, synagogues of philosophy, symptoms of bliss, and finally at the southern wall, the synagogue stood narrow and tossed by those who believe in everything, and those who believe in nothing at all. In the festival prefers a royal procession. It's the ritual of reverence to the crown. Shining jewel upon jewel with each ancient succession. And the multitudes with song and rhyme. From the citadels to valleys fine, they lift the majesty of all the
You have landed on Captain Phil's planet on WUSB Stony Brook, and we are on the air with Bo West from Evership. Bo, the new album is unbelievable. How long have you been working on this?
Well, I would have to say Shane is the mastermind behind most of the lyrics and the music. As far as us recording, we recorded it we got in the zone on this one, and we were able to knock it out in about 3 months. So, and that's with redoing some of the tracks and going in and doing some edits. So we're finally dialing in the sauce pretty good. It's definitely coming out that way too. It was the most fun that me and Shane have had on an album, where it was just relaxing and we had a great time in the studio, and a lot of laughter through this one instead of maybe laughter and tears. We had a lot of laughter on this one.
So, The Uncrowned King is based on a book by Harold Beldwright. I believe it's from 1910. It's a fantasy allegory short novel.
Yep.
And Wright was he was a pastor of a church for a while, and he wrote a lot of religious things. I was thinking when I was researching him that he had like a crisis of faith and quit the church, but it seems like he was just doing better with writing, and he was making more money with writing, and that's what he did. I was expecting him to have some sort of a crisis or something, you know. And I mean, he did criticize some pastors and some denominations, stuff like that, but it seems like he never stopped being a believer. Is that the impression you got?
That's the impression I got, and especially through Shane kind of introducing me to that whole world. The things I really liked about the album, I try to, how do I say this? It always sounds like I'm being so lazy with singing. What I try to do...
Well, Bo, trust me. Anybody listens to your singing, there's nothing lazy about your voice. You know, there's...
What I try to...
Really?
I have
boom.
I have a system now where I listen to the music and I listen to the melodies, And then Shane will give me some tracks that he does. He'll sing some of it kind of like the syllables and stuff and give that to me to work on. But a lot of times I don't listen to it. I don't really invest. I invest in hearing the melodies and I invest in the music, but I don't do a lot of investing in it because a lot of people have commented on how they're like, it's really amazing that you don't write any of the lyrics when it sounds like you emotionally take, ownership of them. And what I do on purpose is while I'm singing the lyrics, it's like I'm experiencing the song for the first time. So it evokes the emotion and I'm able to capture that in my vocals. So that's kind of it's kind of a weird, almost acting type of a thing that I do, like a method type of a thing. So I can really get into the emotion while I'm singing the song. So it's worked really, really well with the way Shane records. It's easy to do,
we've got our technique.
Chunks. Yep.
Yeah, we figured out our technique to get it to work together. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing really good. We had already started, and I want to welcome everybody to Shane Atkinson, the brains, the composer, and not the lyricist, though, because the lyricist is Harold Bell Wright, author.
Well, I did have to adapt it, but yeah.
But we started a little bit without you, and we were just saying how Bo emotes your work by staring at a glossy 8x10 picture of you while he's singing it. Is that true?
That seriously?
Is that what really gets him going on? I've listened to this album a lot, and Michelle sent me one track. She just sent me All the Time by itself and said, you can start airing
single.
this. Yeah. And that was great. But to me, it like exploded in my brain when I heard it all together. It's really like a huge part of it. And yeah, I mean, it's a great song and it delivers, and it's a great rock and roll song. It's Bo is really putting it out there, and he's owning it. I love it. I just love this. And we actually played you into Crown Shine / All the Time. So that's where we're coming out of that into the interview. But when I listen to the whole thing as a complete work, I mean, the whole thing really, really pops. And the thing that bothers me a little bit, because I did have a doctor's appointment on Long Island today, so I drove to Long Island this morning, and I just got back about 20 minutes ago. So I got to listen to the album going south. I got to listen to the album again going north with a new double album from another artist I just bought in between as a palate cleanser.
Sure.
And the thing is, when you get to the last track in the album, Wait, I get the Marty McFly getting the telegram at the end of Back to the Future Part 2. Or Luke and Leia at the end of Empire Strikes Back, with hand frozen in carbonite. And I'm like, I'm kind of ready for Part 2 right now, Shane.
Right. It is certainly a cliffhanger. It just drops you right at the end, doesn't it?
So, I mean, is that part finished? It's
written.
Is it written? Okay, so did you write? Did you write the entire thing straight through, and you're just like doing the recording in two pieces?
Yeah. I wrote this. I wrote the whole thing through, during COVID, and I wrote it before COVID. I wrote it in 2019, at the end of 2019. So it was written and demoed right about the time I was. Yeah, so about the end of 2019, and then we started tracking kind of in 2000, and that's kind of how.
And this was always meant to be Evership Part 3, the third album, right?
Yeah, this was always going to be the third album. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about this music. I couldn't get this music out of my head while I was doing Evership 2, but I knew if I didn't do Evership 2, I was afraid I wouldn't get back to that material. It kind of was the rest of. So yeah, no, I wrote and demoed everything. And remember, when I write, really, I've been saying this kind of recently because it makes a lot more sense. I'm really curating because I have a lot of the stuff is already written. These were song ideas that I just have in stock that I wrote while I was not pursuing music during my sophomore years. So it's really more an idea of going back and say, here's the story that I want to fit this to. So let me go back and find the music that fits it. And then, of course, it's a matter of gluing it all together. And yet, yes, there is still some writing that has to happen to make things cohesive and to make it all happen. But it's more a matter of just picking out those pieces of music that fit the story. And so it's a very story driven. Mm-hmm. Well, my music usually is story driven anyway, but this one probably more so.
Well, yeah, because it's one whole thing, and then of course, like I was joking before, you did the Back to the Future, Empire Strikes Back cliffhanger thing, which and the reason why I bring up those two examples is because those are great cliffhangers, and so is this, and it really just shines out there. It's not like, oh, we got tired, and now he's going to do part 2, part 3 when he gets around to it. No,
right? Not at all. Yeah, not at all. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we've already recorded one song. Not Bo. We leave Bo's stuff for the end because Bo likes to sing with everything produced, and it's just a nice way to. But I review everything with Bo. Like I said, we have a process, as he was saying, and. So part of the process is when everything's demoed, Bo and I get together and I make sure that everything's in the right key and works for him.
I have to say, because listening to Bo, and he does this album to great effect, and and there's a lot of drama and the timing, and the way it has slow sections, it has other voices. But when Bo comes in, Bo is the voice. Bo is Evership. Bo is like,
sure.
Here comes the ball. Here comes the king.
Well, it's Evership. I mean, that's what a great, lead vocalist does. I mean, it's Evership. I would like to think you could tell my musical style, but there's so much music out there that's probably not something I could ask for. But when Bo starts singing, it's Evership.
Well, sure. I have to tell you, this one really, really appeals to me, and it's really living in my head. And I was telling Michelle that the album is new and also a classic at the same time. It's very nostalgic sounding in sections, and it sounds like the 70s or the late 60s, early 70s in certain sections, or it sounds like a few things here and there. And I'm not saying it's plagiaristic. I'm saying it's giving me that feeling I had, the first time I heard a particular piece. It's giving me the feeling I had the first time I heard Layla. Okay.
Yeah.
The very first time.
I mean, Oh, the end of the tower is definitely Layla. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. I will say I consider myself to be fiercely independent. Like, it's an internal driver for me. I really go out of my way not to copy anybody. However, the one cheat that I allow myself to do is I really do borrow from 70s production. I don't hide the fact that I'm using analog boards. We're going to tape. We're using Mellotrons and Minimoogs and
the Mellotron is awesome.
The piano, real pianos. We're using what's the other? I'm just trying to think of the 70s elements. The CP70, which is
was like a Fender Rhodes sound. Am I right? Was there a Fender Rhodes?
Yep, we have a Fender. We got Rhodes in there, which both suggested real early on, back in the early Evership stuff. So maybe you should add some Rhodes. I was like, I think we can do that.
Yeah,
it's right in that. Right, it's in that.
Well, that's my favorite. Thing. That's my favorite intro too. Is the Rhodes on the
yet to come.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
We've got it in a couple of songs. So I shoot for, I think that's what you're detecting. It could be in the songwriting as well, but definitely I shot for that like 1976, record production.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm not saying, oh, you copied so-and-so. No, it sounds like you took me back to 1976 and I was hearing something new, in that zone. And it reminds me here comes the sci-fi stuff. It reminds me so much of Harlan Ellison's short story, Jeff D is 5. Okay. If you're familiar with the story, Jeff D is a little boy. It's a tribute to old time radio. Jeff D is a little boy who never ages past the age of 5, and everyone else around him grows up, and his parents are very disturbed because he never grows up, and he still has one best friend. His best friend realizes that Jeff D can get radio shows from the 1930s and 1940s on his radio. And it's the 60s.
Right.
Okay? And he's channeling all this creative content, but the content he's channeling is new. It's stuff it's not just a repeat of Terry and the Pirates. It's a new episode, and it's new stuff that's going on, referencing events current to the date of the story when the story was written. So that's Jeff Diaz 5. It ends badly. It's very depressing. And but that's the vibe I got, though, because in the middle of that story, I wanted to go back to 1940 and listen to Little Orphan Annie and Terry and the Pirates on the radio, because it made it sound so attractive. I'm from the 70s.
Yeah.
So when I spun these tracks, it was like I knew exactly where the vibe was, but it was like the story Jeff D. It was new. It wasn't just like, here's Shane and Bo and they're doing Genesis. Here's Shane and Bo and they're doing Boston's first album.
Right.
No.
Yeah, and that's
not that whatsoever.
Thank you, and that's of course the risk you take when when you use a mellotron, you're automatically going to evoke Moody Blues and Genesis and King Crimson. You're just going to get that. So you got to be careful that you don't lean on that. Like, you still have to write good music that would sound good with modern production if you wanted to use it.
It's like Philip Glass decided to write a Mozart concerto.
Yeah, right. But he's playing it. Yeah, right.
But it's Glass.
Spoons and screwdrivers. But
and half water glasses. Yeah. That's awesome. That's so, thanks, Bo, the collaboration between you and Shane is just so creative and it's so productive. I'm so glad you're sticking around. You're not going to do a David Lee Roth on Shane, are you? I mean, because you are two halves of a whole. Okay,
Yeah. No, the way I look at it is, apart from the music, I always wanted to be in a band. I never found a home for my voice, and that our photographer Rory, the guy that does most of our photos and stuff, he did the album cover on this one. He said, Bo, you finally found a home for your voice, because I had such trouble in a lot of bands, which is surprising to a lot of people. But if you think about it, for years I struggled with just not being able to find that home, because I would write my own music and do those type of things, but it was hard to capture. I was such a, how do I say this? It was like I was musical ADD. I just really, really wanted to get the emotion out, but I would like trip over myself. And what Shane's music has allowed me to do is, like, he puts all the art and the fantastic scene, and I get to just embellish it and be in that world, and therefore take the emotions from that world and share it.
Out through the garden was a door, deep in the labyrinth, far and wide, where Ivy's hand had once obscured, now caught the brothers' wandering eyes. From here a tower rose so tall, climbing their minds were overcome. High in the sky over the wall, seeing the land of yet to come.
Through vocals. So it's really nice to like have all the visuals I've kind of always thought of, and then kind of sing those visual things. So that's why like I said in when we were talking earlier, sometimes it can come off as laziness on my part of prepping, but what it is it's me wanting to have that emotion so on the tip of my tongue, so that way I'm singing it out. And now that me and Shane, especially what was tough in 1 and 2, is I had to sing everything so many times, because Shane is working on frequencies. He's working on all these technical things.
I have to work
I'm working on emotional level, and he's working on all this technical stuff.
He's got like a Van generator back there with the lightning bolts going back and forth.
There
you know, the lab
exactly.
coat, the welding goggles.
Yeah. And I'm in my, my Alice in Wonderland. So
Bo's the specimen, and I have electrodes.
Yes, exactly. So it was, by the time 2 rolled around, we had it down pretty good. I think 2 was just, another stepping stone. And this one, I feel like we nailed and we hit a home run because, and I'm not trying to be cocky with that. I'm just saying that when we recorded together, we had fun. We didn't really, Shane, I can't even remember one time we got frustrated. I mean, you got frustrated at the typical equipment stuff, but that was even that stuff. Like, we just took a break, went and had lunch, and then came back and then went at it again. And it was really, really easy this time too. Now I'm saying that as far as me singing and doing takes. And then when he would play it back, I'm like, good Lord, it's like almost done. Like right out of the gate, it felt like it was almost done. So it was really nice, like having that, especially that instant feedback where I was like, man, it sounds great, like right out of the gate. When before it was like when he was tweaking and trying to figure out the compression, and the blah, 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 So to answer I know there's a long answer to it, but no, I don't feel like going all Roth on him because I just, I don't have, honestly, it would be hard pressed for me to go find anything else that would make sense to sing. So I definitely am where I want to be. Plus, I mean, I have a perfect gig. I mean, I get to just come in, sing, and leave. I mean, it's awesome.
although Bo is seeing the prince characters, I try to treat him like a princess when he comes.
There you go. There you go. That's perfect.
Exactly.
You're listening.
I am a diva.
You're listening to the diva Bo West and the master Shane Atkinson of Evership. The new album is The Uncrowned King. At the start, before the interview, we heard "Crown Shine" / All the Time, where you heard the joy in Bo's voice. You heard the brilliance in the composition and the orchestration and the trip back to 1976, which I know you all want to be there. Everyone who's listening right now, you want to hold my hands. You want to click our heels 3 times and go back to 76 because it was awesome. It was like 1 year. It was 1 year before Star Wars, man. You can get in line. You can get in line early for Star Wars. There you go, in 1976. Shane, did you make Bo read this book? Or did you just do the lyrics and he read the lyrics? I mean, is this something like that he had to do to get the vibe, or is it something that was just out there?
I don't want to put Bo on the spot. No. I did ask him to read it. I asked all the guys to read it. I asked the guys in the band. Yeah, I asked everybody to read it. And I talked through it with them and told them what I thought it meant and what I was going for. And
Shane, where did you encounter Harold Bell Wright? I did not know this author. He's a fairly famous author at the turn of the century.
Correct.
I was talking to Bo that I thought he might have had. He was originally a pastor, and I thought he might have had a crisis of faith. It seems like he didn't, though. But
he felt like the church was a little ineffective, in his time, and so I don't know much more about him than you would if you read on Wikipedia. So, I haven't gone
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah. So he just felt he could be a little more effective outside of the church. That's all. I don't think he lost his faith, but I like the way he delivers the message. He's very ecumenical in his delivery and with a lot of his writing. And I really appreciate that.
And he didn't seem to be shy about going after other parts of religion that he disagreed with. And I found that interesting. And he didn't try to start his own religion either. He was no L. Ron Hubbard.
No, exactly.
Born in Rome, New York, where I'm up near Albany right now. So sort of kind of in the neighborhood, maybe, sort of. And he wrote one science fiction novel. He wrote The Devil's Highway, which was reviewed in Hugo Gernsback's Thrilling Wonder Stories, and they didn't like it.
Now look, that's got to be a real early science fiction story.
It is.
Right?
That's
going to be before a lot of the big guys.
It's around the time of Weinbaum. It's around the time of John Campbell. You know who it reminds me of? It reminds me of Jack Williamson. If you know who Jack Williamson was, the science fiction writer who was from New Mexico, who submitted a story to Gernsback and never got paid, but it was published, and he saw that he got published. He picked up his own story in the newsstand, because that's how Gernsback was. He wouldn't pay his writers.
That's funny.
And they would get like a half a cent or a quarter of a cent a word to get paid. Sure. So, so it's at the early, back when science fiction used to be called scientifiction. It looked to me like Wright was already established as a successful writer, and he was trying to get his son into the gig, and he was just looking for more genres to write in. Because the actual science fiction story, all these stories are available, by the way, on the Gutenberg Project. They're out there.
Public domain.
Yeah. Devil's Highway, you can just Google it if you want to read it. It's definitely a novel of its time. It sounds like the other science fiction I've read from the 1920s and 1930s.
It's proto-science fiction, really.
Yeah.
This is before, all the greats that start coming in around the 40s,
This is the stuff Isaac Asimov was reading to become Isaac Asimov.
Exactly. See, that's what's cool about this writer. And let me tell you something else. Now, I was a lit. Now, Phil, you may not know, I was a music and lit guy in college. He was somewhat of a contemporary of Mark Twain, or Samuel Clemens, really. And, I wonder who came up with Prince and the Pauper first. I'll be honest with you. I haven't checked the timing, but the inner story, I don't know. Bo, did you go over have you guys talked about the story at all?
No, we didn't.
No. Okay. Well, you have this outer story, which is the pilgrim looking for truth. It's an allegory. It's really not about religion at all. It's an allegory, about the nature of truth. And so you have this, pilgrimage, pilgrim. The outer story is a pilgrim searching for truth, and he finds the temple of truth after he goes to the desert of facts, and he meets the keeper of the temple of truth and has some questions for him. And in order to answer the questions, instead of just answering them directly, he says, "Hey, why don't you go over here? We have this nice quiet room, and out overlooks the beautiful sea, and you're going to be visited by 4 voices of life, kind of like the 3 ghosts in Dickens.
Yep.
You're visited by 4 voices of life, and they're each going to tell you the story of the Uncrowned King, and that will help you understand, why some of these questions you had." So that's the story. So there's an outer story and there's an inner story. And so I structured it the same way. I totally respected his story structure because I liked it. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a double allegory, which is crazy. I mean, that even Bunyan didn't do that. It was a double allegory. So we have the pilgrimage at the beginning, and then on the Act 2, we're going to have a little Pilgrim's Reprise, which isn't really, it is done literarily in the story, but he doesn't call it out like there's another chapter because it's like 3 sentences. Mm-hmm. But I created a little Pilgrim's Reprise to kind of bookend it, and then we have the kind of 2 visits per album that split the Uncrowned King up. Yeah,
I noticed that. So it has the voice of the waves in this Act 1 and the voice of the evening wind. With the power stuff happening in between, Crown Shine all the time, the tower, yet to come it might be, and then the voice of the wind and the voice of the waves are like sandwiched in there a little bit after your introduction with the pilgrimage.
So they're designed to kick off the chapters. So if you think of them like chapter beginnings, so the voice of the waves kicks off 3 songs. That's kind of the first chapter, and then the voice of the evening wind kicks on the next 3 songs.
Does this work? Does it speak to you? Was there something in your life that relates to this? Is this something like, are you the pilgrim, Shane? Searching? Well, are we all searching? Is this something like for everybody here?
Not to dip too deeply into philosophy, although I don't mind doing that. But yes, I like all of the philosophical implications. I like the using of the religion and the theological model to describe the nature of truth and the search that we all have for truth. But I think there's a universal theme of people want to know what the truth is, and they're searching for it in some way, shape, or form in their lives. And so it's kind of, I would say yes and yes, and that I think it could appeal, properly understood, should appeal to most people. And then you're going to have the nihilist who doesn't really give a crap, but otherwise, pretty much everyone else is pretty much concerned with the truth. And then it does speak to me in different parts of it. Does, like, for example, wait. Now that's a legitimate story element where they're in the kingdom of yet to come. They've left all the time to go to the kingdom of yet to come, see what that's about, and they get a messenger comes and tells them that the father has died, the king has died. So and that's all that is. But the way I had to architect the music, I wanted this, voice and then 3 songs, voice and 3 songs, voice and 3 songs. That's how I would pace it.
And he's pleading to get his questions answered. He's like, wait, I didn't get my questions answered.
Yeah, and this is mostly to his father, and that does come from my life.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of answering the second part of your question. Yeah, that definitely had to do with my father, who died real young. He died at 63.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are some of the questions that I had for him. For him, it's like he's kind of just suddenly diagnosed with cancer, and then he was dead in a few months, and
wow.
that was kind of it. And there wasn't any time. And so, yeah, I used that life experience to pour into that song. And that's kind of why it has that tearjerker mojo. It's all pretty legit,
And to me, it also says, wait, there's another album coming out.
And wait, there's another coming out.
Wait, part 2 right around the corner. You're listening to Shane Atkinson. The new album is The Uncrowned King. The band is Evership, and they are here on Captain Phil's Planet on WUSB Stony Brook. We're going to play them out in a little while to the tower. And maybe down the road a little bit, I will drop weight as well. And of course, I'll be spinning the entire album in tracks here, there, and everywhere over the next couple of months here on WUSB Stony Brook. 44 years old. The end of June for WUSB Stony Brook. It's our anniversary month here at the station. Very excited about that. I got a vibe that Harold Bell was a little bit like C.S. Lewis, or maybe what was her name?
Wrinkle in Time.
Wrinkle in Time, Madeline L'Engle. Yep.
Madeline L'Engle. Yep.
There you go. I actually met Madeline L'Engle. She was lovely. And
oh my gosh, she's a beautiful person.
I was trying to date my wife, and I was trying to impress her. And she loved Madeline L'Engle, and I said, we went to a talk with Madeline L'Engle. I had seen Madeline L'Engle at Lunacon, a science fiction convention. So Annette was like, we were in the room, we're sitting there, and Annette's, and Annette brought her best friend with us too. So it's like nothing was going to happen, on this quote unquote date. That was all of a sudden I was chaperone. Yeah. So anyway, I see Madeline L'Engle sitting, waiting to start the talk, and she's just sitting there. And I had seen her like 3 weeks earlier at the convention. So I said to Annette, I'll get your book signed. She's like, what? No, don't go there. It's like, no, give me your book. I'll get it signed. And I go up to Madeline. I was like, hi, I saw you at Lunacon. You were awesome. Could you sign Annette's book for her? Yep. 30 years married.
Crazy.
Still got the book too. Lovely
awesome.
woman. And you know what? Yeah. And getting back to Wright isn't preachy or anything either. I didn't get that vibe from this at all. I didn't read too deep into it. It was a little from that older era for me to mash my brain around. But it's interesting that you're reading this stuff. Like, I'm assuming you read Pilgrim's Progress, and you probably read Ulysses, and all these great pieces.
The Odyssey and all that stuff. I love that stuff. I've got the Aeneid. As a matter of fact, I just pulled it out of a box the other day.
Mm-hmm. So, any of that stuff coming out? A couple albums down the road, a musical representation of the Odyssey or anything like that. Is that in your wheelhouse?
I think that's been done, but I do have another book-based album coming after this one. But we'll talk about that then.
Yeah, awesome. You have Bo, and Bo is like really like the cornerstone here. The heart. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't say this too often, but I hear a lot of great prog bands, and I'm loving them. And then the lead singer starts to sing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is great. If only,
Yeah.
I've never thought that ever about Evership. Okay? It's always like, this is the perfect fit. This is the perfect voice. This is the perfect music. Everything is like boom, boom, boom. And I'm so glad to hear Bo talk about this collaboration, the way he's working with you and the way he's doing his thing. And also the fact that you guys had a pleasant recording experience. These things... Mm-hmm. This is not easy work, and it could get hot really quickly. No. And the fact that you guys, when Bo was sitting here saying, we recorded this together, and I had a really great time, and Shane is great. We didn't really have that much stress. There was the usual this and that, but everybody sounds cool.
Yeah, it was. Evership 1 was just new. It was difficult because it was new, and we were getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. Evership 2 was, I would say, I guess stressful would be a good word. It was fast, and I wouldn't say fun would not be the word I would use. having to reconstruct the band at the same time of making a record, at the same time I was moving, at the same time of this, that, and the other. It just was an album that was not enjoyable to make.
We did get, I will say, sorry to cut you off.
Right.
I will say that on 2, though, we kind of we did get kind of a stepping stone process of our recording process down pretty well. Sure. So we got
I don't want to discount it.
Yeah, the technicalities really got worked out on that album.
And maybe that's a better way to say it, Bo, because we were maybe frustrating is a better word. We were just kind of working things out. And there was just a lot going on in those 10 months that record was made. And so, I say all that just to say, not to put any shadow on our previous work, but just to say that by the time we come around to the Uncrowned King, COVID had hit. There was a lot of time. There was a lot of space. I had like just a year to just write and demo, and then we moved. And so we had that going on. And then I had to find a new place to record. And then because I didn't have a new place, we ended up recording a good portion of it down in Nashville. And then we bumped into this old Harrison console that had Johnny Cash and Kansas and Styx had recorded on. It just, all these kind of really cool things happened, so that by the time it kind of folded all up and built up into this kind of real organic kind of process. And by the time we're ready for Bo, things were kind of oiled, pretty good. We're in a sweet spot.
There's so much art and passion in Bo's voice, and I'm looking at Bo's Facebook page. And Bo, you like rebuilt your house. I'm like, Bo, you could come to my house and like you could do some work for us here, and then you could sing to us.
Yes, sing the album while
the singing carpenter.
You do amazing work. I think I was following you. I'm on your friends list, and you would pop up in my feed. I wasn't truly stalking you, but you would just like something would happen and it would pop up in my feed, and it was like the first thing that would come into my mind, Bo, was, who is this guy? How do I know him? I was like, oh, he's the singer from because I could never remember anybody's name. So I'm like, oh, that's how I know him. That's who he is. I was like, oh yeah, he's cool. I love those guys. And then you're like, here I am. I'm pouring the foundation, for my new garage. And here I am putting up the roof. And I'm like, I'm seeing Bo by himself hanging off a roof, like hammering stuff. And I'm like, dude, you're the lead singer of Evership. Be careful.
I actually, while I was recording, we were on the tail end when I broke my arm, fell off my roof and broke my arm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we just finished up. I'm like, Bo, don't die. I've got to get this other. We can't leave it Act 1 and not have an Act 2.
And then I fell off head first off my roof and broke my arm. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
That's scary. Yeah. I was going to say, a lot of people don't know that about Bo. He's like a master carpenter and general contractor. Dude, he's built like real fancy, parts of Nashville, down in the Gulch. He's done some.
I'm looking at his garage right now.
Okay, well then there's that. Yeah. That's real fancy.
Well, it actually is, because Bo, I have no idea which end of the hammer to hold. So.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. My wife says, you should really fix this thing that needs to be fixed out there. And I go out there and it's like, okay, I tried to fix it, and now it's going to cost twice as much as it would have before. It's like I don't understand it. It's just I'm not good at it. So, but I find this gifts. Yeah. I just find this so cool that there's this physical side to the artwork, like you're because there is art to good carpentry.
Oh, most definitely.
And then this beautiful voice as well. It's just astonishing. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's just so amazing. Now
it's my Bruce Wayne Batman scenario.
I like to think of it more as Harrison Ford, because when Harrison Ford's going to be Han Solo, he got auditioned for the movie, but he was already a carpenter. He was already building houses.
That's true. He was. Yep.
Yeah.
And so was Robert Plant. Actually, he did a lot of. He was kind of a handyman at one point. You know what
is a shame? It's a shame that they all have to have day jobs, because what they really need to have just like health insurance, so they don't have to go to work to just have to be able to be covered and stuff, so they can just make art. It's just make art all day long, and that would be like a great thing. I know so many singers back on Long Island, they're doing I don't know, they're working in dentist offices and stuff like that, but at night they're wailing in blues clubs. and it makes me crazy. And,
yeah. I think that unfortunately that is the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it always has been like that in many ways.
Yeah.
It is.
It's tough. I would say in this town too. What's really hard is it's so saturated. So it's I moved here when I was 25. Shane's been here a lot longer than I have, but Nashville is just a tough. It's a music town, and the thing that differentiates Nashville from like LA or New York, a guy told me when I moved here, he said, New York and LA are like 3-month towns. You can kind of get in there, show your chops off, and kind of make it or not make it. It's kind of a quick, but Nashville, you really have to get into the fabric of the town to get anywhere. And he said this is more like a 3-year town, and that rang true for me because it was hard to get into the fabric here, and then you either you sink or swim, and some of us we just tread water for a long time. And so
in both worlds you do great work.
Yes, thank you.
I need some shingles on my roof. Seriously, I'm trying to get the guys to come out to do these shingles that blew off my roof, and I'm like, dudes, we all got COVID. They all got COVID. And I'm like, you can't get COVID. You have to fix my roof.
Yeah. There's no COVID on my roof. Come on.
It is funny. It is funny. I have a lot of clients that are we want everybody to be safe. We want everybody to be safe. So they're very COVID conscious until their order gets held up from COVID. And then they're like, why isn't my order here? And I'm like, wait a minute. What about the safety and the this and the that?
Oh, that's funny. That's wild. So reminds me of the story of Ed Bishop, who starred in Jerry Anderson's TV show UFO. And he was working in England, but he was an American actor. He was born in America, and he went back to America, and he was doing some work around this people's house. He might have been doing carpentry, and they were watching him on TV when he was doing this work at the house. And he didn't know if he should tell them that was him. And he had the lead in the show. He's a great guy. It's just like, it's crazy, man. Which leads me to ask, Bo, have you ever done work on a job site and the person who hired you was they playing Evership? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, I've had a few clients say, man, we just listened to your album. It's amazing, I'm like, oh, thanks. And they're just like, it's so weird, like listening to you, and then you're over here doing, work. Like, yeah, it's a little strange for me sometimes, and it's funny now. You can say, Alexa, play Evership or whoever else, and that's kind of cool. That was really cool when that happened, and then. Some people will be like, man, I heard you're in a band. And I'm like, yeah, just go Google Evership. And that's really cool having that pop up too, because people are like, geez, what in the world? My painter, it was funny. The day the new album came out, my painter is a big fan. And I walk in the house that we're working on, and everybody's in there, electricians, everybody, like plumbers, everybody. And I'm hearing this music, and I'm like, dang, that sounds familiar.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's awesome.
And I go, I'm sitting there, and it's in one of these middle parts, like an instrumental part. And I'm like, why do I know this? And I look at Brian. I looked at Brian, and I go, why do I know this? Is this? And he's like, dude, it's you.
That's the great was this place that was like to no other. In the land of all the time is day by day. A great walk kept it safe from the notions of others. For of that there was found no need. All ideas here lived happily. For the crowd kept all its kingdom in peace. In these days look we back in.
And I was like, oh,
Well, Bo, for the fourth album, what you need to do is when you're on a job site and you have the subcontractors there, okay, you have to insist that Evership should be playing.
yeah, that's what we actually, actually,
your rider.
You're absolutely right. After that moment, that I was like, "Is this us?" You know, it was funny because everybody was like, "Oh, of course, you're that pretentious rock star. You have to have your music playing on your job site."
I think it's great. It's called synergy. You know, it's great.
Well, then while I'm writing their checks, I ask them what they think. You know, what do you think?
Never. That's true. That's right. When you're writing the checks. Oh, you're listening to Bo West, who is a carpenter extraordinaire, a great singer, and when he comes to work on your house, he will make you play Evership, and you will thank him for it because it's a great album. The Uncrowned King. Shane, you had a lot of family on this record.
Yeah, my brother always plays the leads. I wish he could be more involved than he is, but he's kind of got his own life. John, we're so thankful for John. The guy's just freaking amazing. He can play just about anything I throw at him. Jamie has that, my brother has that connection to mojo, family mojo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my daughter, so, it's in the middle of COVID. I'm thinking, I wanted these character voices not to be Bo specifically. Mm-hmm. So I'm singing the voice of the waves. And some reviewers have said Bo's singing it, but actually I'm singing it.
I didn't know it was you singing it. I didn't look too closely though, but I didn't realize. I didn't think it was Bo though. I thought it might have been somebody else in the lineup.
Yeah, it's heavily processed. I'm using a lot of psychoacoustics on both of those. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm singing that one, but the other one had to be a female voice because in the books, the illustrations, which by the way is the guy who did all the Oz books, he did all the old Oz,
the original Oz books, yeah.
Yes, the original ones. It's the same artist, but he has it as kind of this fairy creature. The voice of the evening wind is like this fairy creature. So, I thought I need a female voice for this. So, it's in the middle of COVID. I didn't know who would fit, and then it suddenly dawned on me that my daughter has this really great smooth she's got like a bluesy voice, really cool,
and she does a ton of musical theater.
She does a ton of musical theater. Yeah, you just look at Paul Mackinson on Wikipedia and Images and you'll see her. She does
yeah,
we got a theater company here in Nashville. So I called her up. I said, Paul, I think you would sound really great on this part. And so we just put it together and it came out just about as I imagined it.
I come from nowhere, you lie past farthest that reasoned in your mind. Can you see the breeze? I speak from the deep beyond, far from what you know or can perceive. As this evening wind of the great that might be, I too am a voice of life, and it is mine to sustain for you the tale that we bring of the uncrowned king.
Which leads me to ask, is there a painted school bus in your future with everyone wearing the same matching outfits, with Michelle driving the bus saying nervous mother driving, which would make Bo Mr. Kincaid? He would have to be fitted for a plaid leisure suit, right?
Yes.
I'm thinking that this could be like, okay, I know album 4 is set, but album 5, could be your reimagining of the Partridge Family,
Well, and let me just add something to that. The prince that's on the album covers,
right,
is my son.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he shoots all our videos too. He's actually a pretty prominent video maker in Nashville.
I think Michelle might have posted something here and there, and I it's going back a little ways, but it's back in the back of my head. Yeah, remembering that.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Yeah, we're a pretty artsy family, so yeah, that's just going to happen. We have other guest singers, though. But I have time now, to plan some stuff, and so we're working on who the guest singers are going to be for the next record. And it's a little too early to announce, but I think it'd be based on some of our conversation, you'd be pretty.
Oh, cool!
Excited to hear who that is.
That is awesome. So this is a great album. The next album is already written.
Yep.
It's when a CD is released and consumed by the ravening hordes of progdom. After they've gone through it for a little while, they come back to you saying, "We want more. We want more." So what's the plan for Act 2? Are we going to look at 2022, 2023? Is there a date you have in mind? Is this inappropriate for me to ask you?
Not at all. Not at all, Phil. When I made the decision so I had to make the decision, first of all, whether this was going to be 1 or 2 albums. I could have done a double CD. I could have done it, but then I would have had to do everything. And then we're like, 3 or 4 years away from a new album. And I don't want to do that. That's not, that's not good for a band. So I split it up so that we could release one like we have this year. And then I'm planning to release the next one next year.
And I think that's good for the fans too. You don't want it to be too long. There's been a couple of projects that have had sequels to in the prog world. And when I listen to like the new work, I'm like, do I remember the old work? It's been so long. In one case I think it was like 10 years, and like here's the follow up, and I'm like, am I still into this? And I like this because I think this is getting really great buzz out there. Number one,
yeah.
So I think if this thing pops in 2022, if you're able to do that, you've already got a pre-sold audience because they have to have Act 2. They just have to have it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. You can't have half the story. It is a built-in thing. But like I said, I certainly didn't, obviously, I didn't construct it necessarily for that reason. But yeah. And for that reason, respectfully, I would not make people wait for it. Yeah.
But I mean,
we're going to turn this around quickly.
The economic reality of it too is that's a lot of product to put out there at once, and it's putting you financially like a little bit of a drain as well. I mean, I've talked to a few bands about, everybody wants vinyl all the time. They want vinyl. And they're like, well, the CD won't fit on one vinyl, so we can't afford to make a double vinyl album.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
We're putting out CDs with an hour plus of music, and you have to make. It's like to make the Uncrowned King just one would be 2 albums and like a 45. or I'm sorry, 2 albums and 2 45s. I mean, to make it work, and that's just one record. That's not part. It's not Act 2.
There are prog fans right now making room on their wall to hang.
I know.
2 albums and 2 45. The box set.
The box set, and I've seen those. I've seen acts do that. They have these box sets, and I'm like, I mean, look, the thing with vinyl, I love vinyl. I grew up with vinyl. I understand why people want vinyl, but until we can, I did vinyl for Evership 1, and we still have a ton of it. The problem is we just don't have enough listeners yet. When that changes and we have a larger demand, then we can, vinyl's expensive to make, and it's even worse now because of COVID. And it's worse for a couple of reasons. COVID is one, but the main plant that produces the lacquer like burned down or something.
Yes.
And so it's really hard to get that material now, which means all the prices are going to go up. So it's not really it's sad to me that it's not a great time for vinyl, but even if it was, it's hard to justify the cost. Not that I don't want to do it. I do want to do it, but we just don't have enough vinyl listeners to support the effort. So I thought I'd do like a Patreon page or something, and as soon as we got enough people who wanted to buy it. That's
probably a great solution, because there's two sides of this coin. The sides of the fan that comes to every show and says, when are you going to release vinyl? And okay, right. So, but at the same time, it's kind of like saying, when are you going to release the limited hardcover? And it's sometimes you just can't do it. It just can't be done.
Yeah.
And it can always be brought back. You can, 20 years from now, Shaden, sit down with the Evership box set,
right? Signed
by Poem.
Well, right, signed by Poem and the gang. My other brother wanted to sing on it too. He's like, "Hey, man, you got to have me on the." I was like, I can't. We're not the Partridge Family, in your words. Yeah, but
that's a shame.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a shame.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Well,
I met
yeah,
Shirley Jones.
so-
Shirley Jones is very nice, by the way. She's
Oh,
tiny.
cool.
It's very nice, very nice. Yes, but she's
Nice.
tiny. But I wouldn't want to make her mad. She looks like she gets mad really easy. Anyway, I'm going off on tangents here.
So yeah, I was just thinking, that's the story for the vinyl. It's just, but we will, going back to things. Yeah, I'm going to go back to things. I'm going to go back and actually remix Evership 2 for a couple of reasons. One, just for my own artistic tastes, I felt like it was just too quickly done, and it just needs more work. Now, number two, if you remember, if we talked about this in our last interview, I don't remember necessarily what we talked about, but for Evership 2, Owl the Broken Tree pushed off a couple of songs. So
yes, I remember you mentioning that. Yes.
Yeah, so there's some music that's not released. So it kind of gives me two reasons to go back and re-release Evership 2, and I'll probably call it like Evership 2.1 or something, or something a little more clever than that. But
the director's cut,
the director's cut or whatever, yeah, and release it like seriously thinking I release it like maybe in a double CD and it'll be remixed, and it'll have. I thought I'd put in some live recordings. I thought I'd put in the extra cuts that were missed. I thought I'd put in maybe a couple of the demos. People don't know that Serious Room was actually not going to be an Evership song.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know if we had, so maybe we talked about that. I won't repeat it, but I have the demo for Serious Room that I did was going to be on my own single record, which I'll do maybe one day. And, I've got the demo for that from that, which from like 2003 or something, It's just interesting stuff, I think, with people who would be interested in. So.
You are listening to Evership, which is Shane Atkinson and Bo West, as well as Danny Partridge and Mr. Kincaid. Here on WUSB Stony Brook, the album is The Uncrowned King. We're going to start wrapping things up, guys. But before we do, first of all, congratulations on Poem. I read that she's getting married, so congratulations.
She is getting married. Yeah, thank you.
And are you going to play the wedding? You guys going to play?
I don't know. She has other plans, I'm sure.
You could probably beat the price of the band she's thinking of hiring.
Probably. Then there's that.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, and it's simultaneously sad and exciting.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a great privilege and great to see your family in this album in such a way. It's just a wonderful thing. I want to sit in a concert hall like the old Majestic Theater in Gettysburg, where they used to hold Rozfest, or the Prague Stock Theater, and hear Bo up on the stage with the lights on him, because there are such theatrical moments in this piece where I feel like I'm sitting in that room and you could hear a pin drop and he's, just emoting. It's one of those quiet places.
Imagination and fancy beguiling my reality, but reach a beauty I embraced is shattered by the fairy grace. Beyond enchantment, what we see, they draw from us the what could be,
and then he releases the Kraken, and I imagine the entire first 6 rows just stand up with their hands up in the air, just like boom, and this album really has to have that moment. So now that I've built it up to an almost unbelievable point, once it's safe, you guys going to play this thing? Are you going to be able to play the whole Act 1 live? Is that something that's doable?
Yeah, I think so. And I'd like to do the whole thing, and then do that. That'll take about an hour, and then do a little bit from 1 and 2, and that should wrap it up.
Would Prague Day kill you guys? It's just so hot down there.
I don't mind.
Yeah,
I'd love to do it. I've been to Prague Day twice, just as a spectator, and I think it'd be great for us. Now, I think our music is done a little bit better under theatrical lights.
Me too.
I don't know how it would go over in a summer festival, but we can, if we just kind of pulled out some of the rockers, and
or Bo could build a theatrical venue for Prague Day.
There you go.
Exactly.
You just show up a month early. Don't fall off the roof, Bo.
Mobile theater.
Don't fall.
Oh, Bo, that's a great idea. That solves a lot of
Mobile
problems.
1920s theater.
Does Harold Bellwright's estate know about this?
No.
Okay. I was talking to Michelle because I did a little research on him. He's like at a museum in Montana or someplace.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, they do the Shepherd of the Hills, which was was his most famous story, and it was made into a film. Mm-hmm. And it's one of John Wayne's earliest films. It's like he's really young; he's like in his 20s, and it's a great story. But yeah, they do that. They have a theater that runs that show, I believe, exclusively.
I mean, I would love to like build a time machine and give this CD to Harold.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know because I mean this music didn't exist in his time.
Right. Well, it's kind of one of those things that's kind of like some of the stories that are now being made into films couldn't have been done earlier because we didn't have the technology. It's kind of that same thing. It's like really to express his allegory in a way that may, to really fulfill all that allegorical language musically that couldn't have been done in his time, And so, yeah, I'm with you. It'd be cool to hand this to the foundation and let them know it exists. And there's a little part of me that thinks, hey, if this thing goes well and gets popular enough, maybe we can have the Uncrowned King theater, and we could put this on as a real rock opera.
I mean, there was the church that he preached in that they turned into a museum. I was talking to Michelle. I was like, you should go and perform it there.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, and the place and it was fun. There's a wacky YouTube video, and there was the keeper of this museum, and she's walking around because she's bored because there's no one in there, and she's filming all the exhibits, and then her battery dies halfway through it.
Really?
It's hysterical. Yeah, it's an iPhone, so it's like one of those ridiculous rectangular videos. Yeah, which I hate.
Yeah.
Like this is Harold Bellwright's books, and these books are very valuable. And here's where the Knights of Columbus from 1923. Here are their pictures. It's just like it's just wacky.
That is
stuff.
crazy.
It's hysterical. The video is just hysterical. I'm like looking at this thing. I was like, I want to see them play in this place. And of course, the place is so small, only the band would fit.
Right. I think it's, I really hope that, like you, Phil, that's what I think that's the role of part of the role of what artists should do, just kind of waking people up to things. And I think that this, waking people up to this writer is really valuable. I mean, he's a, everyone goes on and on about, at least in the literary world, if I can be just a literature geek for just a minute, goes on and on about how Samuel Clemens defined, the early American vernacular, in Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and these stories. But really, when you read Shepherd of the Hills or even watch the movie, I think Harold Bellwright did it so much better, honestly. I mean, I think the connotation and the alliteration and the way the phraseology that he had to have invented. Because, it was 111 years ago, but he's talking about a time that was probably 100 or 200 years before him. So,
but people's emotions and people's wants and desires and the stressors in their lives, the triumphs in their lives are the same.
Yes.
The emotions are the same.
Still people.
Yeah. It's a story where he's like, he's looking, he wants to go, can we go? Can we go? And he wants to go to this place. And he's mentioned in the Wikipedia page. He's mentioned in the same sentence as James Fenimore Cooper.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He was a heavy hitter. Those guys. I mean, he sold like 1 million books. over 1 million books at that time, which is pretty unheard of. It's a very short list of people who were that popular.
And just about everything he wrote turned into a movie.
It's kind of like Philip K. Dick, you know.
Yeah, the difference between Phil Dick and Wright is that Phil died. I think he got to see one or two things made, but the big stuff never really happened.
Right.
And it's sad. It's just so sad. But
he did a lot of work. But
I would have loved for Philip K. Dick to live through the times that we've lived through in the last 30 years, actually.
Oh yeah. Oh, could you imagine?
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Let's do it one more time. The album is The Uncrowned King. We have Shane Atkinson, Bo West, you guys giving me a solid hour here. I'm going to play you out to the tower. But before I do that, the website is evership.com. Is that the preferred location where fans can purchase the CD?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So go to evership.com. If you're listening to this on WUSB Stony Brook, the words evership.com will appear in today's playlist. So all you need to do is go on WUSB.FM and look up Captain Phil's Planet, and it's there. But you know what? Evership.com is easy to remember. It's only 8 letters, a dot, and a com. So evership.com, all lowercase. You can remember that because people are either driving to work or they're driving home right now. So you don't want it to crash. As we wrap it up, guys, Bo, for you first, and then Shane, give me your brief take on the tower.
I'll let Shane go first.
Okay. Okay. Take on this tower. So once you get to the tower, as far as the record, listening to the record, you're starting to get into the story. You know, you've been through kind of the pilgrimage. The Voice of the Waves has introduced the characters, and then you've been introduced to the characters through the music of the crown shine, and all the time. By the time you get to the tower, you're really starting into the story, and so. This is where the twin princes, they discover in this garden, this kind of a labyrinthine garden is how I've designed it. As far as I've taken some creative licenses, they discover a tower that they had never seen before, and they go up into this tower and they can actually see over the wall of the city, which they've never seen over either. And in the distance, they see another city, and they're just enthralled in wonderment about it, and they go to this tower often, and then finally, when they're older, they ask their father, "Please, can we go?" And in the book, it just basically represents the future. It's the excitement for what the future may hold.
Cool, Bo.
It's one of my favorite ones to sing, even though it's jam packed, so to speak. Yeah, a lot of lyrics. It is one of the catchier. I like the catchiness to it, and I like the cadence of it.
Me too. Absolutely.
And I like how it musically, how it opens up in certain spots and then gets. It just has a lot. This whole album, and the Tower really is probably one of the more, like I said, catchy tunes. What I love about what Shane did in this album and what I got to express is a very not verse chorus theme. I just liked coming back to a little bit more repetitive type of a song, because I got to really, there was a lot of part, like in the Tower, I got to come back to parts I really liked in the music. Sometimes Shane will write something really brilliant and there will only be one part of it, and I'll be like, man, I wish that was like chorus where I could sing it like 20 times over and over and over. But what I liked about this album is we have just selfishly, that's my take, but selfishly with this album, I got to sing a lot of those parts a lot more. Mm-hmm. And I really like that. And I think that lends itself to a little bit more, how would I say this, toe tapping prog. You know, you can take the convertible.
I almost want to say, I mean, one of the other reviewers dropped Beatles, a little bit into it, but there are moments that are poppy and they're welcome. Yep. It fits right in.
Yes, and that's what I really, not shoving it down the pop funnel, but what I love about it is it is very, selfishly, I got to, and especially with the Tower, I got to experience those things a couple times, and I'm glad because I got to have the the audience also experienced those things a couple of times. And I really think that's going to lend itself to, when I'm singing these songs live, I see a lot of people, even in the limited shows we've done with the prog community, I see people singing the lyrics. And what I really love about this album, I have a feeling there's going to be parts in this album where I can almost like let the audience sing. It's going to be a really cool experience. I feel that because there are those moments in this album.
It's nostalgic without becoming syrupy and maintaining originality. So you have the nostalgia in this album, but it's not a tribute act. It's new. It's new and nostalgic at the same time, and I think that's what makes it beautiful. And I think you're right. I think when you're up there singing on stage, whether it be in Jersey or wherever it's going to be, that moment, I can see that moment.
Yeah.
That's the moment I can see from the tower, Bo. I'm on the tower.
You're
that's what I see.
Looking at the land of yet to come, and that's what's coming.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about this album, Phil, is it lends itself to those everything I sing of Shane's from album 1 and 2 and 3. 3 really came together, and I think those moments that I get, like I said, selfishly, both emotional and singing, I think you all are getting now, because I think we've kind of got the recipe dialed in, and it's really awesome having people experience that with us. I think on 1 and 2, I think people can, when you're, I don't want to go all hocus pocus or way mystical out there, but I feel like when you put certain energy in an album, when we were frustrated on 2, I think a little piece of that goes into the album, and that's fine. But at the same time, I think on this album especially, I think the energy that we have going into this album, it's really coming out because people like you are expressing the same things I feel. And that on 1 and 2, we didn't really get that. We got that feedback. People were like, really like, you guys are a great band. You're this, you're that. But this time, I feel like people are really getting to experience the full shot of energy on it. So I'm really excited about it.
This is your moonshot, guys. Yeah. Evership 1 is Mercury. Evership 2 is Gemini.
Sure.
And here we are. We're going to the moon, guys. This is it, man. You got the right stuff. It's great. It really does. It really does fire on all cylinders. I think you guys know each other. I think you feel safe around each other. And you've taught us, through the first 2 albums, you've taught us, the listeners, who you are. And now it's like, let's see where this thing can go. And that's what's happened here. We are like,
we're comfortable now.
Yeah. It's Warp Factor 5, Mr. Sulu. Let's take her out for a shakedown cruise. This is it, baby. Boom. Let's go.
Take her out. I love it. Take her out.
Guys, this is running a little long. I want to fit this into one show and play all the music as well. So we're going to stop here, but I just want to thank you again and for working with me. It's 11 o'clock at night in New York. I don't know what is it, like 10 o'clock for you guys?
Yeah, it's 10.
Yeah, so I know you guys work for a living. So thank you so much.
Whispering to the chief cook, to the captain of the guard, and the first chief officer, to the highmost chamberlain, to the eager princesses of the land beyond. All the time. Out through the garden was a door, deep in the labyrinth, far and wide. Where are these hand once obscured, now caught the brothers' wandering eyes. From here a tower rose so tall, climbing their minds were overcome. High in the sky over the wall, seeing the land of yet to If I could go, just
Hi, I'm Michael Okuda.
I'm Denise Okuda.
I was a graphic designer on Star Trek for longer than I care to admit.
And I was graphic designer and video supervisor on TV series and feature films.
You're listening to WUSB Stony Brook.
90.1 FM.